You know that we have three branches of government. We have the executive branch, which the President of the United States controls. And then you have the legislative branch. That's your Congress, makes up your Congress. That's who makes the laws. And then you have your judicial branch. Your judicial branch is made up of, judges and whatnot. Now, the Supreme Court is the court that they are the ones that interpret the Constitution. What they do is, say like for instance, if a state court handed down something and somebody appealed it, and the appeal courts in a certain state decided to vacate that or to keep it going, then you keep going to the higher courts, and then the last court that you get to, if it's a constitutional issue, is the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the court that actually interprets the Constitution according to whatever case we're looking at. They make sure that it is in no way violated your constitutional rights. So now, if Congress, which is, when we say Congress, we're talking about your Senate and your representative. I think it's like 430 something, and I don't know if that's with or without the 100 senators. That's 500 and something altogether. So those are the people that makes the law. I mean, y'all might have heard of that song when we growing up, Conjunction Junction, what's your function? And it goes off into all that, explain that to you. Me and you wasn't paying no attention then, but Noble Drew Ali taught us how to pay some attention. So what your Congress does is they make laws. They make the law. The first when a representative, they write a law, and then it's called the House of Representatives. They write the law, and then the House votes on it. And if the majority say good, then it goes on to your senators. And if your senators pass it, then it goes to the executive branch. It goes to the executive branch. Now, the president can sign it into law. He has to agree to it, or he can veto it. If the president vetoes it, and then it goes back. Now, if 2/3 of Congress, votes, they can get by the president also. So that's why in the United States, they call it checks and balances. Nobody can do anything that's in violation of any laws under the Constitution of the United States, because you got the checks and the balances. The president, while he's the head of the executive branch, he's not the head of everything. The Congress, even though they the ones that make laws, that if they make a law that's unconstitutional, then the courts, the Supreme Court will hear it and say it's unconstitutional and throw it out. The makeup of the United States is it's a whole lot simpler than we think. It's a lot of legal, the legalities of it. And if you don't understand the legalities of it or the language, because one word over here can take on 2 or 3 different meanings, depends on the sentence structure, and depends on how you speaking it. And so that's what Noble Drew Ali is teaching me. If it says the grass is green, then he's talking about something in particular. But if he says, just say for instance, he says where the grass looks green, that don't mean that the grass is green. It just looks that way. And so you got to be, you can't right off say, now he said that the grass looks green, because it may just look green, a reflection of something may make it. And that's what the prophet is teaching us, how to use the language and how to interpret the language in its proper form, and how to deal with government, because we are a part and a portion of this said government. And we got to live a life according to what? The government. Because we are part and a portion of this said government. We have to live according to the government. There's only one government. The Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered organization. It's not a government. The United States of America is the government that he's speaking about. And while speaking about it, Noble Drew Ali is trying to get me and you to fully understand how governments work. Why? Because he said, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation, not take it and save yourself. And so he's telling me that I'm a nation within this government, but I'm not the government. The Supreme Court is what they call the high court. That's when something can't be solved in the lower courts, then it goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court solves it. Now, if it's proper, then it never makes it to the Supreme Court if the law is proper, because you're going to go, just say if you're in state court, they got a state Supreme Court too. And if the state Supreme Court doesn't follow the law, then you go on a federal level. Once you go to the state Supreme Court, and if the state Supreme Court about some chance don't follow the law, then you go into the district courts. That's the federal courts. And if the district court says that, hey, we're gonna throw this out and redo it, then you go all the way back to the lower courts and you redo it. But if the district courts upholds the thing, whatever case it is, if it upholds the case, then it goes to a higher court. It goes to what they call your appeal courts. You go into the appeal courts, and if the appeal courts upholds it, and then if your attorney is really up on what he's up on, he got you that far, and they hearing your case, then it's going to go to the Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court is going to go straight constitutional. Is this a constitutional issue? And if it's a constitutional issue, they're going to hear it. And then the judges that's sitting on the Supreme Court, they're going to hear it. I think Roberts is the Supreme Court justice, and the rest of them is associate justice. And they're going to hear it, and they're going to go over case law, and then they're going to rule. And if they rule that your Constitution was violated, then they throw it out. They have the authority. If it reaches that, it has to reach that court. It ain't automatically, every case is not a Supreme Court case. But if it reaches that far, then the Supreme Court is going to rule, and they're going to rule according to the Constitution of the United States. Was his constitutional right violated in this manner? And then they're going to throw the case out. And once the Supreme Court does what they do, then that's the end of it. Constitutional rights, that's the key. Everybody don't have constitutional rights. You don't all have constitutional rights. We can go to, let's just go to 1857. Let's go to the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott, he was, I think he moved to Illinois. He moved from a slave state to a free state. And he decided that, hey man, I was staying in this free state, so now I'm free. And so he wasn't free, so he sued his master in the lower courts. And for some reason, the lower courts they was not on his side, and he kept going. And he got to the Supreme Court. In 1857, when he got to the Supreme Court Justice is Robert Taney. Supreme Court Justice Robert Taney told Dred Scott in open courts, it's on the record there, he has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. Why? Because you are not a constitutional citizen. The Constitution don't protect you. It don't protect slaves. It don't protect ex-slaves. It don't protect Negroes. It don't protect black people. So you shouldn't even be here. You are property. They saying that no descendant of an African slave, and they trying to tie you back to something that's not even real. Because you can't, who knows where Dred Scott people came from? Dred Scott people might have been in the South over here in what we call the Moroccan Empire. Roger Taney, did he evaluate that Dred Scott was an African besides the color of his skin? He didn't evaluate none of that stuff. The reason why he didn't evaluate any of that stuff, he was interpreting the Constitution. And anybody who does not answer up to the Constitution, if you don't have a nationality, then the Constitution don't apply to you. So Dred Scott wasn't in court as a black man. Dred Scott was in court, but he's saying, I left a slave state and went to a free state. That's why I'm in court. It's just that Dred Scott happened to be a Negro. And that's what determined. Now, if Dred Scott would have been a European, it'd have been different. Dred Scott happened to be a Negro, and they just happened to use the term a slave of African slave, or descendant of African slave. They used them terms. But Dred Scott was only in the courts, but he was suing because he's saying that, hey man, I was in this slave state, and then my master took me to a free state. And now I have a right to be free. But as a piece of property, there's no freedom for property. My car can't say when I want to go back to the Chevrolet dealership, man, you my property. You go where I drive you. No matter where I take you, you are my property. And that's what the Negroes are considered as property. And if you go into the Constitution, you still consider, they changed it from slavery to servitude. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, slavery to servitude. When as a slave, I was serving you. Now as servitude, I'm still serving you. I'm still serving your purpose. That's what me and you was considered as. That's what the so-called black man was considered as in this country, as property. And you probably think that no more. The law haven't changed. Okay, Congress is the representatives and the Senate. The Senate is 100 people. You got 50 states and you got 2 senators per state. Every state has 2 senators. A lot of times you have a Democrat and a Republican senator in the state. And the senators are the ones that they have all the juice. That's why they the second house. Because you got to go through the representative first. They create the laws and this and that, but the Senate has to agree to it. The Senate is a more powerful office, I would say, because the senators have more control, because while a representative is many for certain districts, a senator controls the whole state. So you got to go through your senator. Now, they don't just have federal senators, they have state senators too, and the state senators have some control too, but your state senator don't control the whole entire, the state of the United States. So the senators, everything has to go through the Senate. If it don't get to the Senate, it don't go to the president. I think, and I'm just thinking, I think Texas has 36 representatives, I think. Like California, I think they got 50 something representatives, because a representative represent an area. Like Sheila Jackson Lee, I think she represents Harris County and Houston and that area. So but they have more than Sheila Jackson Lee in Texas. They got 36 representatives that represents Texas. And these representatives are supposed to represent what the people. But you got to remember that as a representative of the United States, I'm supposed to represent the people, but I work for the United States. They don't draw their check from the people, they draw their check from the federal government. So whoever you draw your check from, that's who you actually work for. Now, if I benefit by you paving a street for me or passing a law in the neighborhood, then that's all good. But I work for the federal government. That's where I draw my check from. And so wherever you draw your check from, that's where your loyalty is at. Your loyalty with these congressmen is not always the betterment for you, but it's for the betterment of the country. That's what they say. The country, first. When I didn't send you to the House for country first. I sent you to the House for Harris County first. You're supposed to represent us up in Harris County. But now you saying country first. What about Harris County? Well, we're going to get Harris County what they got coming after we make sure country is first. And it should be country first. But it should be, country and us, because I make up the country. So when you say country first, then I should be benefiting right along with the country. And that don't always happen. It rarely happens in our communities. Man, have you seen what our communities look like? And our people are so, let me just use our people are so ignorant to certain things, they believe that, because time done passed, that things have changed. No, it hasn't. The law hasn't changed. So time don't change law. And so the only thing that can change the law is to change you and make you fit the Constitution. Because the Constitution is tailor-made. And you have to fit the Constitution. They don't make the Constitution fit the people. So in the preamble, they say we the people in order to enjoy. This is the people that they call the founding fathers. We founded this. And we're going to do this according to this. And they did it according to that. when they say we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, you know, so then that's what? This is a union. It's still a union. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And until not me, until our people see that nothing has changed and start living according to a constitutional law, which proclaiming your nationality, because Negro, blacks, and colors is not a nationality. It's never been a nationality, and they can't even make it a nationality. Why? Because there's no such thing. You know, so this was something that was conjured up, and they wrote you out, and they did it intentionally. You know, but they made sure that they did their work in the 1500s and the 1600s. They made sure they did their work. You know, they studied, you know, we're going to get rid of your language. We're going to get rid of your nationality. We're going to start having you calling yourself something else by us calling you something else. And then they even use some derogatory names. I don't even want to say that name. They use some derogatory names to identify us. And now in the 2000s and in the 90s, we call each other those derogatory names. It said, because it's spelt a different way, it means something different. Like, come on, man. It don't, you know, we just lost, brother. I mean, and when I say we, I ain't talking about me. I'm talking about our people. These Europeans did some real damage to the so-called black man in America. You know, when they needed work to be done, you know, here's a European lady, and I look at her, and they lock me up for 10 days, and they work me for 10 days to work their crops and certain stuff. You know, and they demoralize you, and they demoralize you so bad till you don't feel like human, and you start doing inhumane things, you know, and then they label you, you know. When somebody comes from another country over here, a friend of mine from Nigeria said when his parents first came over here, that they take all of the new citizens that's applying for citizenship, and they show them a film, and they have people in there talking, and they showing films of like gangbangers from California, a certain person. They say, y'all don't want to fool with these people. Because can you imagine somebody that don't know nothing about you, hate you as soon as they get here? Because they turn all the people with nationalities against the so-called Negro, blacks, and colors. And then me and you act in that manner. You know, we act, I mean, it's certain people me and you don't want to be around because we don't know what they're going to do. But if you change their conditions and their circumstances and the way they think, then you can change your people. But long as you got other people's fighting against you, because you got some Negro, blacks, and colors that fights against what's right for us. Why? Because you know how it is. I mean, you know, you go to a peaceful protest, they send somebody there. Yeah. It's a peaceful protest, but they done send 5 or 6 people there to cause some confusion and some chaos. These 5 or 6 people is there to throw bottles at the policemen. You know, they send people there to do that. And the people look just like me and you. And so we're not just fighting against what's wrong or what's right. We're fighting against people that looks like you and I that don't want it to be no better, you know, because they getting $1 or 2 here or there. You know, the Constitution, there's nothing wrong with the Constitution of the United States. There's nothing wrong with the way they interpret the Constitution of the United States. There's something wrong with people that think that they're something that they're not. That's the problem, because, you know, people, when he violated my constitutional rights, he ain't violate your constitutional rights. What constitutional right did you have? And then when the courts decide, and they're going to decide that when they ain't violate his constitutional rights, then they're going to say they violate his civil rights. What happened to my constitutional rights? You never had none. And so that's what we got to start thinking. Why? Because the law is the law plain. Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with the law. You know, man, you got it. Noble Drew Ali will walk you from the beginning to the end and show you everything. You just got to want to change. You just got to want a difference. You know, we as a people, we talk about, man, we need a change. But we as a people, we won't make a change. You know, Black Lives Matter. You know, you see how they appease that, and everybody's wearing T-shirts, Europeans wearing T-shirts. Why? Because they want you focused on that, opposed to focus on what's really going on. You know? But, you know, that's not here or there. I mean, you know, one day we might wake up, one day we might not. It's a decision. I made a decision a long time ago. I'm not gonna be no Negro, black, or color. And I'm from Fifth Ward. You know, I'm from what they call the bloody Fifth. You know, I've seen my first man shot when I was 7. You know, so I'm seeing blood and all that. That don't even bother me. I know what bothers me is to see the condition of my people, not understanding law, not understanding the Constitution and civil rights and all those type of things. They put civil rights in play to protect certain stuff. You know, civil rights, European women fought for civil rights. You know, they had constitutional rights, but they was treated like, you know, second-class citizens, and they fought for certain rights. We ain't the first person. Civil rights ain't starts with Negro, blacks, and colors. Civil rights been around.